Good morning, ladies. Okay, I got to do it one more time. Good morning, ladies. All right, a lot better, a lot better. I know it is 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm not sure who chose the time. No, but it wasn't Ashley's fault. ASOTUCON needed us to be here a little earlier than the main breakfast, but we appreciate you getting up. We know you could still be sleeping, but you came here. Welcome to WOCAN. For those who have not been a part of WOCAN in the past, my name is Carrie Wise, and during the day, I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Autofi, and my side gig is the president and co-founder of WOCAN, Women of Color Automotive Network. So thank you so much for being here. We are so excited to have you. I want to kind of go over what WOCAN is, because for some of us, it might be our first time. I'm looking around, I see familiar faces, but I see some new faces too. So if this is your first ever WOCAN event, please stand up for a second. Sorry to put you on the spot. You won't be the only. All right, I love this. I love this. Let's give them a hand. Welcome to WOCAN. It is an experience unlike no other. So I want to talk a little bit about WOCAN, who we are, why we exist. We are a nonprofit organization focused on attracting, connecting, and engaging women of color in the automotive industry. Now, why women of color? For those who haven't looked at the stats, we all know that there's not enough women in the industry, but when you look at women of color, we represent 6 to 7% if you look at some major sectors of the auto industry, and we are 18 to 20% of the workforce. So when you want to talk about underrepresentation, we are underrepresented. When you look at the C-suite, 1 in 4 C-suite leaders are women. It's 1 in 16 for women of color. When you look at dealership ownership, and this is a fact that Dame and Lester gave me, I have not validated it, but there's about 1,000 dealerships owned by women in the country, and guess how many are owned by women of color? Let me make a guess out there. How many? What number? 5? How many? 3%. I didn't do the percentage. It's about 70. So 1,000 owned by women, and 70 of those are women of color. And so we face different challenges, and we face a lot of challenges that all women face. But I think what we learned in launching WOCAN is that you can't attack a problem with broad strokes. And so it's important for us to be engaged as women. And then women of color, there's a different challenge and a different approach, and WOCAN is about really filling that gap. So I want to share with you some of our co-founders. Put that down for a second. So these are our co-founders. We all knew each other in the business. Erica Wells is sitting over there. She's a general manager at Walzer. Let's give her a hand. You guys have seen Erica. I love it. And the one clapping for her the loudest is Patrice Banks of Girls Auto Clinic. And then Amanda Gordon couldn't be here. She is the CEO of Gojo Auto. But we all loosely knew each other within the industry, meaning that we would go to a conference like this, and we would look around, and I would see Patrice, or I'd see Erica, and I'd be like, who's that black girl? That's exactly what we say. Who's that black girl? Because I'm a unicorn and she's a unicorn, and let me capture her because I can't believe I'm seeing another black girl. And that literally would be sometimes what it would be like at conferences. And so in 2020, we all know what that year entailed with the murder of George Floyd. Being a woman was really important to us. We were fighting and marching with the women, but all of a sudden, our race became equally important in 2020. And so we felt like we needed to give back somehow, use our stories, and we decided to create WOCAN. We didn't have much planned outside of just applying for a nonprofit. We created the organization for ourselves, and because we didn't see ourselves very often in the industry. And so when we had our first meeting in August or October of 2020, we had about 30 people at the first meeting, which was like, whoa. I've never met a Latina that owned a service repair facility. I did not know that even existed. I didn't know that a bank had this C-suite executive. And so it really was inspiration for us to just keep on going that, yeah, you might be the only one, but you're not the only one, right? There are some others out there. And so for us, that has been part of the mission of WOCAN is inspiration. When I look at our members, it's not working, of course, there it is. Our members, this is what inspires us. All these faces, different sectors. We are now at 1,100 members. And I might point out that 900 of these our members are women of color and 200 are allies, men and white women. And I gotta tell you, the first white guy to join us was on month 1. We didn't know what to do with him. He came to every single meeting. I don't remember his name. He came, Chris Becker, and there was another guy. He came to every single WOCAN meeting. He was a fixed ops director, I remember? And it was it almost made me tear up, just going, this guy? Like, if you wanna learn about other people that are different than you, if you wanna learn about how do I attract more women, what is better than embedding yourself in a WOCAN meeting, right? Every single month that guy showed up. So, this has been our inspiration, and we have been able to connect these women who thought they were the only ones to each other, which has been a gift. We've been able to show them inspiration through our WOCAN speaker series, where we show the CEO of banks, we show dealer principals, we showcase high-level women of color who have made it to the top so they know it's possible. We have given them education through our Leadership Academy, sponsored by Solera. Anybody in the room in the Leadership Academy here? Okay, it's been an amazing six-month Leadership Academy. Many of our women have never had leadership training prior to that. And then our scholarships. I hear a lot of events say, we can't get women, we can't get diversity at our conferences. Well, guess what? WOCAN is sending women to conferences, including this one, including SEMA, including Digital Dealer, including NADA, including all of those. Our nonprofit is paying for women to go because a lot of times they're not there, not because they don't want to be there, but because we're not in the C-suite. We're not in the leadership channels. And guess what? Who goes to the conferences? Everybody at the top. So we want to be deliberate in changing this industry, one woman at a time. So we're really proud of that. But part of that is our allies. And so I want to thank everybody in this room who is an ally, who came here to support us, to listen, to hear, to network. And I particularly want to thank our friends from ASOTU. I got to tell you, when Ashley came up with this idea with Kyle, I thought they were kind of crazy. I'm like, yes, this might work at NAMAD, the Minority Dealer Association, but it's not going to work at ASOTU. I was wrong. I was completely wrong, because we were able to fill this room. And I want to thank you, Paul and Kyle, for everything you have done. They have paid for this event, and we really, really appreciate that. Come on up, say a few words. Let's put you on the spot. Yes.
I almost tripped. Thank you. Thank you for being here, everybody. The history of our relationship with so many WOCAN members, and so many of you who aren't WOCAN members, started very similarly to the beginning of ASOTU in general. The pandemic hit, and no one knew what to do. And so I was like, I'm gonna have a live stream, and I'm gonna call it something official, like Automotive State of the Union, and make the logo look like the Presidential State of the Union so people think it's a thing. And that happened. It happened. Look at that. That was 4 years and a month ago. And then we had some more of those. And then, does anybody know the Clubhouse app, right? How many people remember? We probably met on the Clubhouse app, because that happened right at the end of 2020. And ASOTU, we were just like, let's just provide a space for people to have conversations. So we had 5 Clubhouse rooms a week, and one was Women in Automotive, and we had a NAMAD room, and then all of a sudden these communities really started to merge, because that's kind of what ASOTU is. It's just a platform for everyone to get together around some shared beliefs. I'm gonna flip to Kyle.
Yeah, I remember back to like the first social post that was WOCAN. I was like, oh my gosh, I was telling all the people in my dealership that were women of color. One of our big hopes, and one thing that's important, you said obviously at NAMAD, it's a lot easier to get a bunch of women in a room, especially women of color. But what we are passionate about is bringing together every nook and cranny of community that sees our industry in a way that has a pursuit toward the better good for our industry, both internally and externally. And so we don't want to separate or segment those groups of people. And so it's important for us to bring different, diverse groups of people into the same spaces that everybody else is. And so that's why partnering with WOCAN, partnering with you all, giving this space, but also watching you all be in the rest of the space is just as important as this breakfast. So our encouragement to you is if you haven't met someone, find them, introduce yourself. The cool thing about ASOTUCON, if you've never been, is you'll start to realize really quickly that you didn't know it, but we've gathered all your friends. We've gathered some like-hearted, like-minded people that probably would be in this room if they knew that it was happening this morning. So thank you for being here. Have an incredible morning and incredible event, and we'll see you around. If I don't know you, make sure and introduce yourself, all right?
All right. So we're running a little behind. We're going to jump right into our next panel. I want to introduce Ashley Cavazos. She's a marketing director for Demontron Group, and she is our newly appointed vice president of WOCAN. Ashley Cavazos. Yes, oh, this way.
Thank you, Carrie. Thank you, everybody. Thank you all for coming early. You know, when we talked about this breakfast, and I think about what we want to do with WOCAN in the upcoming years, it's really about connecting us more together, making sure that we see a familiar face in the crowd, get to know each other more, a lot of member engagement and community. And that's why we wanted to do the breakfast. Why not kick it off with meeting some people so when you go back into the big room, you see some faces you know and it's maybe not so scary. So I'm super excited. I'm going to put my stuff down really quick so I don't drop anything. But we're going to bring y'all something we haven't done at WOCAN, and that is a panel with some of our founders. So we have Patrice Banks here. So Patrice is the CEO of Girls Auto Clinic. And as I call your name, feel free to come on up. Yes. We have Erica Wells, General Manager at Walzer Automotive Group. And let's give a round of applause to Carrie, our president and CMO of AutoFi. Thank you for a great introduction, Carrie. Who needs a mic?
Hello?
Everybody good? Testing? Awesome. So I'm going to dig right in. And y'all, this is going to be a very honest conversation. I'm really excited to bring it. We have, like I said, we haven't done this before. So first off, let's just start and jump in. And why don't y'all give us a brief background of your career? Where did you start? What companies have you worked for? What roles have you taken since then? Patrice?
Okay.
Yes.
So I have a little bit of a different story than a lot of people in automotive. I own Girls Auto Clinic, which is a full-service auto repair shop that caters to women. We hire and we train women mechanics. We educate women about their cars, and there's a nail salon there to get your nails done while you're waiting. But I'm actually an engineer, and what I call it an auto airhead. I knew nothing about my car. I always felt taken advantage of, and I hated my experiences, which made me want to take charge of my car. And so I decided to go back to school to learn how to work on cars so I could provide a service for myself, but also to millions of women out there that have those same experiences.
Awesome. Erica?
My name is Erica Tiffany Wells. I started in automotive in 2004 as a service writer. I was a young mom, high school dropout, and my car was broken down. And I actually worked out a deal to work at a service station, which is kind of how my career started. I've done everything from BDC, service manager, sales manager, F&I, and most recently, almost a year ago in September, was promoted to general manager.
Whoop, whoop.
I worked for Nissan, Volvo, Hyundai, Audi, almost every brand you could imagine, and I love it.
I started my career in automotive in '98, so it's been more than 25 years. It's insane. I was 5 years old when I started. If you're curious, child labor was okay then, I guess.
Prodigy.
I'm a prodigy. Funny enough, I don't tell this story very often, but I went to Cal State Northridge. Nothing to brag about. It's not USC or UCLA in LA. But I got lucky in that a man named J.D. Power was a professor in the graduate program. And he, just as a labor of love, ran the largest marketing research company in automotive and just wanted to teach. And so he was an adjunct professor at Cal State Northridge. And I was in the undergrad business program, and they said, you know what? If you want an internship, go to J.D. Power, because he's affiliated with the school, you'll get a job. Got a job, and my first gig at J.D. Power was the Honda Acura CSI and SSI. If anybody in the room is familiar, I did your tracking, I did your CSI study. And that's how I got into automotive and from a marketing research. Went on to Edmunds. That's where I started working with dealers, launching their dealer business from a training standpoint, from an analytics standpoint. I eventually moved to marketing. Went to TrueCar, which was the fun ride, going to a company that didn't have a lot of love in the industry, and I was taking the VP of Dealer Relations role at TrueCar, and then eventually to Autify as a CMO.
Awesome. Wow. I mean, such a vast amount of different ranges of roles that have led y'all to this and created, along with Amanda, what we have as WOCAN today. So was there a particular moment or decision that maybe catapulted your career or opened doors for you? As women, especially women of color, I think there's moments that you sometimes are like, where am I going? What am I doing? Right? Like, where is this? Does anybody see me? Like, what is happening here? Is there a moment that stands out to y'all? I'll start with Erica.
It's interesting because I was listening to Paul talk about COVID, and I think that was a very important time for me. I had been in the business at that time around 15 years, working at a dealership. I'd been there 7 years as a sales manager, and I felt like my career had kind of just like plateaued. I just couldn't get to the next level. I kept asking to be promoted into finance. They kept saying, you got to go to school and you got to be in the box first. And they didn't want to spend the money to send me to Florida to go to JM&A school. And, so I'm in this position where I'm like, how can I grow? And it's sometimes tough because they keep telling you that you aren't prepared, but they're not telling you what you need to do to get prepared. And so I'm feeling stagnant. I'm feeling frustrated. And COVID happens, and to the point of Clubhouse, I jump on Clubhouse, and finally I'm in rooms and relationships and building with people that I would have never got to meet in real life. I wasn't invited to the conferences. I couldn't afford to go. My GM wasn't gonna send the BDC manager or the sales manager, especially when there's 5 guys competing. I wasn't the one they were picking to go to the conference, if you know what I mean. And so to be able to have conversations with people that I respected in automotive and people I didn't even know, and realize that the automotive community was a lot bigger than my little small dealer, I started to have these relationships and started to have people who were like, come on our podcast and come talk. And it was all virtual then, so I could go, right? It was just logging onto my Zoom. And those relationships became seeds that started trees that have now been the orchard from which I've been able to feed on years later. Those relationships have turned into awards. Those relationships have turned into job offers. So that community that was built during COVID was a huge part of like a projection to my life. And then that's where I got the relationships to meet some of you guys as well. And it's been amazing ever since.
Okay, I'll answer next. For me, it was definitely taking the job at TrueCar. It was 2015. I'd been in the industry for 17 years at that point. I had not really plateaued, but I hit director level, and they were just running out of directors to give me. So it's like director, senior director, executive director. They were just making up new director roles, but they wouldn't give me a VP, right? And I was at Edmunds at the time, but I had told myself I didn't care about being a VP. I don't know if any of you are like that. Like every role ahead of me, I always like downplay it that I don't really care if I'm doing that now. I don't care if I become a CEO. Well, I'll probably be a CEO now, right? But that's what I was doing. At TrueCar came calling. They showed up at NADA, and they came to the Edmunds party to recruit me. And I said no. It's like, why would I go to a company that has a lot of issues, perceptions with dealers, and be the VP of dealer relations? But it was a vice president role. And so it was one of those things where I said no, and I wouldn't even interview. And then my boss got fired at my current company. And they called me the next morning, and I said, you know what? Sometimes you just have to walk towards the fire. And if I'm able to make an impact at this company, people are going to see it. If I'm able to go to a company that not a lot of dealers like, and I can move that company even to neutral, this is gonna have way more of an impact than any of my safer roles I ever took. And I took that role, and I was in Automotive News 2 months after taking that role, announcing me. And so all of a sudden now, even with the hate, even with glaring eyes at me sometimes when I would be at dealer conferences, they knew my name, right? And and when we did start moving the needle, the impact was much greater and I was much more visible. So for me, that was absolutely the moment.
It's really interesting because, Erica, you've talked about a little bit of risk. You've moved cross country. Carrie, you've jumped into new companies. Patrice, you're an engineer, now learning about cars, right, and shifting your career. And sometimes as women, we stay in our little like safety zone in our bubble. And I'm not saying go back and like, you know what, here's my 2-week note. No, that's not what I'm saying. But it is really interesting how it is scary for us to leave that bubble, and then the growth happens. Patrice, what about for you?
So it's interesting because when we talked about this question earlier, I was like, do I have a breakthrough moment? I couldn't think of one. And I've been on like the cover of People magazine, right? I've interviewed with Jim Farley of Ford. And one of the things about being an entrepreneur that you understand is it's just like consistently showing up every day. There is like no big moment. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm on the cover of People magazine. But one of my favorite quotes is from Steve Jobs. He says, you can't connect the dots until you look back. And so when I was thinking about this question and how to answer it, I'm looking back on my career and everything I've done with Girls Auto Clinic. I think that moment for me was when I did a TED Talk in 2015. Now, and the name of the TED Talk was How I Plan on Disrupting the Automotive Industry in My Red Heels. Now, at the time, I didn't have a shop. I didn't know of a woman mechanic. I just had this idea of a business that I wanted to create in the automotive industry for women. And it was going to be for women, it was going to be by women, and that's kind of what TED is about, your ideas. And so I'm this person that's not from the industry, doesn't know much about cars, but just has this idea, and I get on stage and boldly profess, this is what I'm going to do. And people still bring up this TED Talk today, and it's kind of cringeworthy for me because it was one of the first public speaking things I do, and now I get a lot of public speaking, and I'm always like, oh, that was kind of not great, because I'm a lot better now. But people love it, and I tell the story, and I lay out my plan of what I want to do, and I talk about my experiences, and how I learned from that, and how I want to help women, and how I want to grow Girls Auto Clinic, and how I want to help the industry too, right? Like by getting women involved, since we are the #1 customer, making sure they're more engaged and they feel good about their choices. And so it's really just resonated throughout my entire career. People still will bring that TED Talk up, and I'm like, oh man, even though I've done a lot more greater speeches since. But I think it was that boldness of putting my idea out there, of believing in myself that I'm capable of doing this, even though, like I said, I didn't know a woman mechanic, I didn't even have a shop. I believed in myself, and I believed in women, and that we were capable of doing this.
I love it. So getting into WOCAN and being women of color, and Carrie told us some of the stats earlier, but what unique challenges have you faced in your career, and how have you overcome them as a woman of color? We'll start with Carrie.
Where do I start? I mean, some of the things I'm going to say are women will understand it too, right? So they're not all necessarily unique. The one that I think is somewhat unique is not necessarily having a playbook, particularly in the corporate environment. So you're already a woman, and you might be the only woman, right, in the company you're in. But even in terms of race, I had to learn a lot from my white colleagues because I'm in their culture. And so it's just even conversation sometimes. I remember that, I'm at a table and they're talking about skiing. I'm like, skiing? Black people don't ski. Just kidding. If that's ever sorry. But you feel like you're a fish out of water sometimes, and you can't say it because you want to seem like you're in the know on things. And so I think a lot of that comes from the fact that when you look at women of color, many of us are the first in our families. From an income standpoint, almost all of us are. If I did a survey in this room, who's the first in their family to be middle class, first generation, right? That would be me. Who's the first to be? Are you the first to ever go to college? Many women of color, more than other women, are the first to ever go to college, are the first to ever be American. And so when you talk about the playbook, there's not generations of someone giving you that, here's how you navigate the corporate world. Oh, I went to college. Let me show you. My parents couldn't do that for me as much as they tried to encourage me. And so a lot of it is learning on the fly. No one has ever made the money I made, right? Before I made it, right? And so I think to me that it's just, you're a trailblazer automatically, and it's not just amongst women. It could be amongst your entire family. And so that just carries a level of pressure. And like I said, I'm thankful for some of my white colleagues who taught me about money, right? My parents taught me just to save or put it under the mattress, right? But they taught me about investing. These are conversations that a lot of women of color are not necessarily exposed to, and we're learning on the fly.
What about you, Erica?
Oh, wow. So for me, I would say it was mentorship. The first 15 years in my automotive career was very lonely. And there was, periods when, to Carrie's point, I just felt alone. I just felt like there wasn't anybody that looked like me. I didn't feel like there was anybody who was willing to bring me up. I'll never forget when I became a sales manager, I was so excited. I just signed my new pay plan. And I was talking to one of the sales managers, and they were like, "That's all you got?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And he's like kind of stopped himself, and come to find out, I was getting paid way less than he was. And in the moment, I felt like that's okay though, because I'm new and I'm just starting out. And I only looked back at it and I said I was willing to accept a lot less because I didn't feel like I deserved to be there, because I felt like I kind of broke in, so I should be grateful for the little crumbs that I was getting. And I took crumbs for a long time in my life and in my career because I didn't see people who looked like me, and because I didn't feel deserving. I didn't feel worthy to be in those positions. I felt like I was lucky to get in. And that was very unfortunate. I think if I had found a community like this a long time ago, I would have had people who built me up and said, "You are worthy. You do deserve it. You're going to ask for more. You deserve more. Add tax to whatever you're adding on there," right? Because we bring something different. And it's interesting, as I got in my career, I saw that I brought something different, and I saw that I brought a unique voice, but I couldn't put a value to it. I would hide some of the conversations that I would want to have and hold myself back from thinking things that I should say because I wanted to fit in like everyone else. When they had conversations about golf, I'll never forget trying to go get some golf shoes. And I went to this golf practice, and I paid somebody to teach me golf, and I did 3 swings, and I'm like, this is not for me. I cannot do this. I do not want to do this. And if I don't get to go hang out with the golf guys, so be it, right? I will start my own club. Right? And we will go do spa day. Right? And if the guys that want to get their crusty toenails done, that's fine. Right? You just got to create your own space and not try to fit in someone else's space. And until you see someone do it, and then finally you have to say, well, then I guess I just have to do it. Right? I guess I have to make the space that no one else has made before instead of fitting the same mold that everyone else had to. So I have to now try to be the mentor to the people who don't have the mentor that I was looking for.
Yes. I love it. Patrice, I'm going to throw you a curve question, actually.
Oh. Really good answer.
Okay, go ahead, answer, and then I'll throw you your curve question after that.
Sometimes you have to create what you want to be a part of, right? And that's kind of why I created Girls Auto Clinic, because I didn't see it, For me, so I love telling this story. When I went back to school, so I was an engineer. I worked for DuPont for 12 years. And when I decided to start Girls Auto Clinic, I knew I needed to go back to school to learn how to work on cars. So I enrolled in the automotive technology school locally near me, and I was working for DuPont during the day, and I was going to class at night. And at this time, I'm 31, I'm a manager at DuPont, and when I go to class, I'm terrified because I've never touched a tool in my life, I don't know anything about cars, and I'm in class with a bunch of 19-year-old boys. And I'm scared. I don't want to look stupid, I don't want to mess up. And what I found myself doing is making myself really small, because I didn't want to look stupid. I was the engineer, right? So I'm supposed to be smart, and I didn't want to change that perception of what people thought I was. And so we used to work on cars in like groups of 3. And I remember one time we were in lab, and I would just kind of like step back and let the guys really just get in there, because I didn't want to mess up or break something. And that side note, like that's how you learn as a tech, you break a lot of stuff. And again, like I said, it made me small, and I just kind of stepped back and I would watch them. And then one day I overheard 2 of them talking, and they said, you know, see, she doesn't really want to be here. She's just doing this to like look cute or to like impress someone. And they were right, because I wasn't showing up how I was supposed to show up, which is really leaning in, like I'm here to learn. And I realized that I wasn't being my empowered self as a woman, and I'm trying to start this business to help women, and here I am making these mistakes of making myself too small. And so I realized that I had to lean in, I had to mess up. I'm gonna mess up, I'm gonna make mistakes, and I did. I remember one time I was putting on a lug nut backwards, an acorn lug nut, and the head of the automotive program came up to me and said, what are you doing? You should know better than to do that, right? Kind of shamed me. And I snapped back at him like, if I should know how to do this, then maybe you should have taught me how to do it. Mm-hmm. And by leaning in and understanding that when you're doing something new, that you're gonna mess up, that you're gonna make mistakes, that you're gonna look stupid, that's part of the process of getting really good at something. And when you lean into that, you'll learn more, you'll get confidence. And so now I tell people, because I've had that experience, I'm really confident in myself. I can get in front of rooms and talk in front of people. I've talked with Damon John, Tyra Banks, billionaires, successful business people about Girls Auto Clinic, and I'm not afraid. I believe everything that they know I can learn. I feel like I belong here and I deserve to be here. And it's because I went through that process of, yeah, I messed up. Yeah, I looked dumb. And it's okay, right? This is how you learn. And so that experience is really what, kind of changed it for me.
That was that aha moment.
Yeah, for sure.
I love it. Okay, here's your curve question. Okay. So if y'all aren't aware, DEI is under attack these days, right? And when y'all started WOCAN, there was a lot happening, but why should DEI still be a priority for companies, Patrice?
So, yes. This is an issue that I bring up a lot, and when I talk to executives and business people, I make sure that I focus on this because I hire and train women, and I get emails from executives all the time, like, Patrice, where do we find women? How do we find women? And so they want to link me with DE&I and HR and say, hey, we need to get women in because we need women techs, we need techs in general. There's this gap, and I'm always approaching it of this is not a DE&I approach. This is operations, right? DE&I is definitely a part of operations because it affects your bottom line. And you don't have techs. You want to engage women, and we have to really be purposeful in saying this affects our bottom line. This needs to be part of operations because we know as soon as we start cutting things, the economy's doing bad. What's the first things that are cut? Things that aren't directly related to ops. And I think part of the reason we're not seeing the growth that we want to see and that we need to see with women and people of color is because it's not a part of the operations. And so whenever I'm talking with people, I make sure that I highlight that. I talk about this is solving a problem in your workforce operations. It's not just about metrics of looking good and feeling good metrics. And that's going to be really important with DE&I because when it's about a feel-good metric, it doesn't work. And then it comes back to, see, this isn't working. Because your plan of laying this out is not gonna work when it's just about the performance. If you tie this to ops and tie it to money and the longer term goal, that's where you're gonna see the performance and that's where you're gonna see the growth and understand the value in having DE&I, which is not about putting people who are not good enough in these positions. It's about widening your pool of finding people like Erica, finding people like Carrie, of finding people like Patrice that's gonna come in and bust these doors down for you. We're gonna bring in other women and other women of color who are smart and who are capable and who can change your culture, which is what a lot of these businesses in automotive need.
And Ashley, if I could add to that, I think part of the challenge that we had, starting in 2020 when everybody was hiring DEI leaders and it was a huge focus, is that we were doing a little bit of a check the box, right? A dramatic thing happened in our country. Everyone felt like they had to give back. So let me go ahead and hire a DEI leader and put them in that corner over there. And hopefully they don't disrupt the organization too much, right? And instead, it really is about more of the culture of the company and getting more leaders that are diverse, because I can tell you that at every company I've worked at, I've had more diversity than other leaders. And actually women in general, I would say if I look at the women leaders, there's one in the room, Michelle Malesio-Taylor's in the room, and she works for Audify, and her team's one of the most diverse teams in our company. And so I think naturally diverse leaders tend to be more empathetic, be more open-minded to diversity. So it's not about hiring the diversity leader. It's about, or someone who's only focused on that. It's actually about embedding it within the organization. I think that's a mistake we made.
I love that. Erica, what is one piece of advice you would give to your younger self or someone starting out in automotive?
Be true to yourself. I denied who I was for a long time in my career. I am just in the last 4 or 5 years being more comfortable in my skin, being more comfortable in who I am, being confident in the fact that my ideas are different. I'd get into a room with management, I'd be on these steering committees in automotive, and everybody would be saying the same thing, and I'd be saying the opposite. So I felt like I was wrong. I said, well, clearly I have no idea what I'm doing, because I think that's a terrible idea, what they're saying, and I think it's gonna suck, I think it's gonna not work. But I would be quiet because I felt like since the majority of the room was in agreement, that then my idea was wrong. But it wasn't until I would speak up and I would say, actually, I think we should go this way, and challenge those ideas and challenge the room, is when people would start to say, hey, actually, she's right. And it took advocates and mentors to back up my idea and have my back and say, hold on a minute. And sometimes lead with my idea, and then they would say it was their idea, and then say, actually, this was Erica's idea. Because then people would buy in, and then find out later it was my idea, and they're like, yeah, I tricked you guys, right? But it took that, because sometimes our ideas devalue just because of where it comes from. Right? And it's unfortunate that happens. And so the mentorship is hugely important for that. Having people who have your back and lean in and support you, and being careful to not change who you are to fit into everyone else's opinion. It is your unique voice. It is your unique story. It is the things that you have been through that makes what you say so important. And the fact that you feel uncomfortable is actually okay. It is leaning into the uncomfortableness to speak up about it, that someone else is gonna listen and say, I like that idea, and I like what she's trying to do, and I'm gonna disrupt the industry, and I'm gonna be the only one, right? And those are the things that end up being the very superpower that you have, and that make you stand out and make you more comfortable being yourself than you can ever do by trying to fit in with the mold.
Okay. Who's inspired? I have no words.
Never follow Erica.
Dropper. She's always the
Never
mic
follow
dropper.
Erica, whatever you do. Get off the agenda if you're behind her as a speaker. Trust me, I've done it.
Well, and I have one last question before we go into our table discussions. But I want this to be kind of something we think about. And so, Carrie, I wanted to save this question for you. But what advice would you give to people who are wanting to do more to advance more women and more women of color in automotive?
So if you're an ally, join WOCAN as an ally and donate. I had to get that in there. We are a nonprofit. But no, I think, a lot of times we look at, thought leaders, experts, the DEI leaders, like I said, that's not where the change happens. We've created an organization. We don't know what we're doing when it comes to nonprofits. We're not experts at nonprofits, but we decided we needed to do something. Let's make a difference. And for everyone in this room, that could look different. I don't think it's blanket advice. For some people in this room, what you can do to help is to just show up every day, put your oxygen mask on, and don't quit. That is your gift to women. Is that I can look out and still see you here next year. And that's all, that is your greatest gift. It's just showing up every day. For others who have more capacity, it could be just helping another woman, speaking up on behalf. I will tell you, there's a white woman, who when I was at a very high level, I literally got passed up for a role. It was wrong. It was illegal almost. And I took it, and I didn't say anything, and I just said, you know what, I'm just gonna put my head down. I'm just glad I'm glad I got a job, I guess. She pulled me into a conference room, and this white woman and I say she shared in some ways her privilege with me because she came from a long line of lawyers. And she had a mentality of what's wrong is wrong, and you need to speak up. And I just didn't have that. I was just thankful to be there. And she said, what are you doing? Why would you put up with that? And her shaming me caused me to actually go, okay, I need to say something. I have validation that it's wrong. And so I think sometimes it's just speaking up for somebody else or encouraging them or guiding them or giving them the talk tracks on how they should go in and ask for more pay. It's those little things like that that are all the difference.
So put on your oxygen mask.
Yes. First.
Put on your oxygen mask.
Then help someone else.
And find, if you see somebody, help them, or if you have your community, make sure that you have somebody you can go to.
Yes.
Thank you, ladies.
Oh, thank you.
This was amazing. Let's give them a round of applause. I want more, but I want to make sure we get y'all to table discussions. So,
yes. Are there any questions in the audience? I know we don't have a lot of time, but maybe we can answer a couple. Yes. Sorry. Oh my gosh. Is that Diana? I can't see you. Hi, Diana.
Diana Lee, CEO
Diana
of
Lee,
Constellation.
superstar.
So I know that being a high-powered woman, sometimes you're called a lot of things. And even for myself, I think, people will say I'm intimidating, or I could be a bitch, or there's a lot of criticism that you have to take when you are in a position of power. And I think for me, sometimes it was understanding that that's not on me, right? And at the same time, I say to myself every day that I do this job, that that's not my problem. You can't be a bitch. And it's okay. Because a man who's tough is not going to apologize. At the end of the day, it's their problem. It's not ours. But I do think women, high-powered women, second guess ourselves.
Yes.
We have imposter syndrome. So many times we say, oh, we should be nicer, we should be kinder. But I don't see men ever saying that when they are direct. So tell us about a time that you had to be super direct. You didn't have to actually beat yourself up, because a lot of times I think we beat ourselves up for this. And it's a constant battle, I think, right? Because you do take a lot of criticism as you go higher up the ranks. Tell us about those times.
Wow, it's interesting because I was just talking to Erica about this morning. And even, with all the success I have, I'm still worried about coming off of looking bitchy, of not looking friendly, of, not want to work with certain people. And I've been working with big names on stuff. And, one of the issues that I have being an entrepreneur is my time is really limited. And so there are people who are super excited about what I'm doing, and they'll, contact Carrie and find all types of ways just to get in touch with me, to come and see me and want to work with me. And then we'll work for like a year on stuff, and then they just disappear. And I've spent all my time on this, and then I'm or we'll have conversations where I'm like, listen, I gotta move. Either we're doing this or we're not. And I start to get really short. And then I feel bad. I'm like, I don't want to be seen as difficult. I don't want to be seen as that person who's not working with people, who, because I start saying, you need to pay me. I need some money. And a lot of times I fall into that trap where I'm giving away free labor. I'm working with these companies, and then I get upset because I'm starting to get tired and my time is not being used well. And then the relationship falls apart. And I'm like, oh my God, am I creating, right, this reputation of being someone who's not coachable, who's not likable, who's difficult? And I think about that all the time and how I'm supposed to respond. And then I come in and I talk to Erica, and we're talking about these, and I'm like, no, I am a CEO running a company, right? I should be demanding that they pay me, and I should not be giving these things away for free for a year and doing this stuff, right? So it's an understanding that again, because men don't think this way, and I say that all the time. Does a man come in and when he puts his foot down, are they like, oh no, he's a bitch? They're like, he's really serious about what he's trying to say. And I can't let what other people think or how they're gonna respond make me say, okay, I'm not gonna say it like that. And another thing that you'll learn is that, again, because remember I told you, you're gonna mess up. I've definitely messed up talking with people and probably have said something I wasn't supposed to that was a little bit too direct or too aggressive. But you learn from it. And so now I know going in, right, how to approach these situations, how to talk about them while being stern, right, and aggressive, but also to where we feel like, yes, we can work together. This is what my needs are. This is what, I can offer you. And a lot of times with women, we won't say what our needs are up front because we're usually the people giving and taking care of, and we'll accept less, right, than what we need. And that gets frustrating, and we get angry, and then
And with a smile on our face.
Yes. And now it's like, why are you being the bitch? Because we accepted less, because we accepted this, and it's not who we are. And that's where I get into making the mistakes. So if I'm that way up front, I'm learning that, this is how it is, and don't care about what these people are gonna think. You're gonna find the right people in your life to help you do this.
I'm a recovering people pleaser. Yeah. I just gotta say. I mean, I upset somebody this morning and I'm still thinking about it right now. I'm not joking. It has ruined my whole morning that I made someone mad because I was direct with them. And so I don't think I've ever gotten used to it completely. It always I have to be a leader, and I have to be direct, and I have to give feedback. But it definitely bothers me, I think, more than the average person because I want to please all the time. For me, I have to think about the good of the whole group because I'm still kind of pleased, right? So if I don't direct, if I'm not honest, if I'm not straightforward, then the group is going to lose. And then that will motivate me to be direct. So it's like hacks in my mind because I haven't gotten over it. It's from childhood, right? It's like disease to please.
Just to build off what you shared, Karen, it's so interesting because women, we tend to get caught up in being likable.
Yes.
We want to be liked. And as women, we're nurturers. We're raised to take care of other people. But at the end of the day, to be successful, it's not about being liked, it's being respected.
Yes.
Do you want to be respected for what you bring to the table? Do you want to be a leader? Do you want to drive performance? Men don't care if they like you or if they're liked. It's about being respected. And I recently read a book that was called The Likeability Trap, highly recommended, by Alicia Menendez. And it's all about being respected, not so much about being liked.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Do we have any more questions in the room?
Yeah.
We don't.
I can't see as well.
Hi, good morning. We'll try to keep this really short because I am actually super excited to be here. So thank you all so much for this platform and this opportunity to network. And I'm over the moon to be in person with you all. That said, 2 years ago, I was miserable and I was working in sports entertainment and venue management. Today, I'm a certified assessment technician, and I'm the only woman in our service center.
Yes,
girl.
Yes.
I love it.
Chase, you responded to me in the she-candid community when I was terrified about making a career shift, and you said, find somebody that's willing to teach you. I proudly wear the banner Wreck-It Ralph in my shop because I don't give a damn about breaking the internet.
Yes.
Small and fun, and I love breaker bars and proud bars and all of that, and I can't even say how excited I am to be accepting the ED space. That said, you guys kind of set up a question that I wanted to piggyback on because we have those moments where, being direct and being okay with being a bitch and, being in the shop, I'm a bitch every day, I don't care. But I wanted to ask about your take on those Goliath moments, the moments where you had to fight the institution, where you had to acknowledge that something wrong was happening.
not just to you, but something that had farther out impact? And how did you wrap your mind around the moments where you realized that you had to gear up for a fight? And then how did you approach that fight?
I have a real obvious answer on that one, and I don't want to hog, but man, when you were talking about the Goliath moment, like something came to mind, and I won't name the company. I have to be really careful. And when I was going through it, I couldn't talk about it because I was, people knew me publicly. I wanted to make my company look bad, but I had a C-suite executive come after me for 4 whole years at a company I worked at. When I say come after me, like leaving me out of meetings that were critical meetings, like all leaders in the meeting, and somehow I just got left out. So then I'm like, wait a minute, you guys all met? And like, I wasn't there. So it was like very passive aggressive, talking about me to other executives that I wasn't that good, or right? And so now I'm having to repair my relationship with somebody who just came in the company. They don't know me. I'm already the only one in leadership, and now I have to this guy is saying this stuff. And so I don't have an answer for you other than I tried to fix it in a lot of different ways. I confronted him head on and said, can we go to coffee? Because something's off. Like something's off. You're doing these things, and did I do something wrong? So I did the let me take accountability. Is it me? I did I'll work around him. And so when you saw me on stages all the time, that was like an FU. I'm gonna be on all kinds of stages. You're gonna see me on NADA and all these stages, because if you try to backstab me, the industry has my back, right? That was the tactic I took. I tried all kinds of tactics. The biggest thing, the only thing I know of is just to outperform it. Because he couldn't touch me because I was performing at such a high level that he had no power over me. But I hate telling you that because that's so much pressure, meaning I could not stumble. I could not fall, because if I fall, he's gonna have me. And I know that sounds so dramatic, but that's the situation I was in. And so I think just to outperform, I also tried to get allies around him. So he's coming after me, but there's other chief officers. So let me get some friends. Let me get some powerful friends to try to basically neutralize his negativity. Ultimately, another executive went to HR on my behalf. It was that bad. He literally came at me in a meeting. Another executive reported him to HR. He was gone a year later.
This is why community is so important, because when you're the only one, it's easy to attack one. But when people know you got people behind you and they got support and they're willing to come to bat for you, they're not gonna pick on you as much. People are bullies still out here. We're still on the playground, even though we're adults. And this is why WOCAN is important, and these women events are important, so we can find our tribe. We can find the people who are gonna support us, who do believe our stories, and who doesn't think we're just being bitchy or having our little women moments. That this is real to us. This is how we feel, and how do we solve these problems? In the community and these people backing you up is what is. It's hard. Let's say you're the only one. It's easy to attack, and to win stuff like this. Is why Carrie is so badass. Right? Because she was able to not just survive, but thrive. But most people can't do that, right? And so this is why these types of things are so, so important. Yeah.
I mean, we are losing a lot of women in the industry. I don't know how many conversations I have had with not just women of color, but women, because of these situations and because we don't have a tribe. And that is really why I had a few people reach out and they're like, hey, I'm not WOCAN, but can I come in? And I'm like, yes, you are welcome here, because we all need each other and we can all relate in some way or another.
Absolutely. Question. Oh,
Michelle?
Sorry. And then you're next. Oh. Michelle was next, and then.
Okay. Hi guys. I'm Michelle Langford. So I appreciate WOCAN for the community that you have developed and you created. It allows us to be vulnerable. It allows us to, connect and everything like that. But I also see the outside picture. I want to ask the group or us: when did we share this with the men? When did we share our concerns, our desires, our aspirations, our conflicts, when do we get an opportunity, or is that something that you guys have thought about to share this? Because we've had this in the silo. We can be very comfortable and very vulnerable with ourselves. And at some point, we do have to share this experience with others.
Could y'all hear her back there, by the way? So she was asking about when do we share this and our thoughts and our aspirations with the men, with the coworker men, allies. When do we bring this conversation to the men?
My take is that from a WOCAN standpoint, we created the organization to empower women to navigate this business, because at the end of the day, and I don't mean to be a pessimist, but I don't think in my lifetime we're going to completely change things. Even from a race standpoint, from a gender standpoint, like, we're going to have challenges. And so, yes, we need to work on the system, but more importantly, I need to arm this individual on how to navigate this system, because it isn't going to change overnight. I think what you said is important, but we have to be very thoughtful on how we have those conversations with men. You know, I'd love to put them in a room here and us just talk to them, but it probably wouldn't work very well. But I think we could. I think there is some things that we could do to engage them more.
I'll tell you a story that's happened just a couple of years ago at a dealership I was working for, and I had a customer come into the dealership and ask to speak to the colored woman she had saw yesterday.
Oh, God.
And it was one of my sales guys. He's a white guy, and he was bright red, and he was so uncomfortable. He couldn't even say the word. He was like, she's asking for the, and I'm like, speed it out. What are you trying to say? And I couldn't understand why he was like so uncomfortable. He said, she wants to see the colored woman. And I was like, oh, that's me. I'm the only one that works here. So, you know, in that moment, I had to just like hold it together and go talk to the woman, and we get past whatever. And I kind of had to reflect on these moments that I've had where there's, you know, there's passive racism and there's like direct, and there's ignorance, right? She's very ignorant. She didn't know the right thing to say. So at that time I said, you know what, I'm not here to educate the world, and I'm not about to have an argument with this woman about which way she should have spoke to me. And my mentors go back and forth. No, you should have told her, like, African American, this is what you say. And I was like, God, I don't want to fight this every day. I have enough. The automotive industry's hard, and I got to go in and fight every single day for who I am, for my skin color, for how I wear my hair. Like, why do I got to fight this? But it was an excellent opportunity for me and my salesperson then to have another conversation, right? Forget her. She's a customer. I'll never see her again. But to sit in front of my salesperson, he says, I didn't know what to say, and I can't believe you deal with stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, it happens a lot. It happens in a sense of when now, as a GM, someone says, I'm here to see the GM, and I come out and I come speak to them, and they say, I'm here to see the GM. Let me turn around a circle and come back to you.
Let me go get her.
I'm here.
Right? Like, and then conversations with, I actually had a woman one day ask me, she's like, oh, wow, you run this place? Like, who did you sleep with to get there? Oh. Like, it comes from women, too.
Wait, how many of us have been accused of being the diversity hire? I got an email from a woman when I got a promotion at Automotive. She wrote me a note and told me that I've always been the diversity hire. I've always been the only token black girl, and that she grew up on the wrong side of town, and that she didn't get everything I got. So even with success, sometimes you get that. But yeah, we can't teach everybody.
No, I have men who say, I wish there were programs like that to help me, and you got...
I just also want to put, one of the reasons I started my own business is because I didn't want to deal with this. I was like, absolutely, I absolutely opt out. I check out of this. I'm not playing your game. I'm not a politics person, and I never was when I worked at DuPont. I wasn't going up the corporate ladder. I didn't care. So a lot of my advice is like, who cares what they think? I want to do a good job. I want to get paid well, and I want to do a good job. And if you don't, all this like politics and this person talk, I don't need to be playing in that pool, because that's not me, right? But it also is what gives me this entrepreneur spirit. But like, I don't have to do what everyone else is doing. I'm gonna do my own thing over here, and the people who believe in me are just gonna follow me. Like I always say to them, I'm not jumping on your train. You gotta hop on my train.
Yes.
You know?
Yes. Yeah. I feel like
No, I was gonna say, if we're expecting them to know how to fix it, right? Like they don't know how to fix it either, right? And they're obviously uncomfortable with the conversations. They're uncomfortable with the topic. And so all we can do is continue to have conversations, to your point. Find an ally. Find one person who have your back. Find one person who you can talk to and relate to. And you never know, one person has an experience. And they'll say, oh, my best friend is black, or my best friend, like, okay. But what they're trying to do is find a way to connect it, embrace it, and have conversations, and be able to be a little bit vulnerable to show them just a little small piece of what your life is like. And I think over time, that kind of proximity and getting to know someone and understanding that their viewpoints and your viewpoints are totally different, give them grace. More than anything you could ever do is give them grace.
Yes.
That is so, I think what you said is so important on the grace, and it's a really hard one because, I've had a lot of people who've come up to me and ask me really stupid questions, and you're just like, oh my gosh, I had a guy told me, Carrie, you have such a good command of the English language. I was like, well, were you expecting me to speak Ebonics, or I don't know, what were you expecting out of me? But that's those moments where you're having to go, do I teach here? Do I go off on him? I mean, sometimes you just want to go off, but that doesn't do anything. And so I think you're right, when we have those relations, we can have some grace. And then I did teach him that don't say that again to another person in your life.
The word that I thought of when you were asking this question is vulnerability. And we have to be careful as women with vulnerability because we can't be just vulnerable with anybody and just be sharing a bunch of stuff either. So it's learning that about who to be vulnerable with at work, right? Building those relationships, is going to be really important.
Yeah, somebody told me something, be friendly, but you don't have to be friends, right? And I was like, interesting, because I want to be friends with everybody. I love everybody.
Not everyone's your friend. Your mom taught you that.
Someone back there.
Yeah, and one quick thing for Michelle, and for I think everybody in the room, if you're wondering where are men falling into this, we actually had men RSVP to the event. And they wanted to come in that are here at ASOTU and wanted to learn. We just wanted to make sure we gave everybody a safe space without having that. But we do welcome them at our virtual events, and we do have them come. So we do have those times and moments where they are invited. But we also want to make sure we have the safe space for them, for y'all as well.
Good point. There was someone in the back, I think. Oh, there you are. Okay.
Hi. This is my first WOCAN event. However,
Welcome.
Thank you. I thought this was inspiring, amazing. So if we want to get more engaged, how do we continue the conversation? What things are coming up? How do we get involved?
Yeah, and we'll put, there's a slide that has a QR code that you can scan, but it's WOCAutonetwork.com. We'll put it up there. You can join as a member if you're a woman of color. We also have an ally membership. Either way, you're getting invited to all of our speaker series, and most of our events are open to everybody. So.
And we have a lot of our speaker series that we did have are up on our YouTube. Like Diana gave one I still listen to because it's so amazing. So you have access to some of the past things that we did. And we have a really big luncheon we do every year at NADA or at NAMAD in October, which is a fabulous event. So look out for that coming up in October. It's usually in Miami, right?
Yeah. And the NADA women are here too, so we'll talk to you after. Since you said that on accident, Freudian slip.
Yes, get registered now. You'll have some save the dates coming your way for our annual luncheon that'll be coming up in August in Miami. So,
Is there any? Yeah. Because I think they start at 9, right? So we probably are okay.
Hi, everyone. I'm not the one to yell. So I think this question would be probably best for Erica. I actually interviewed with Erica in a very interesting period in my career. I have 10 years of automotive experience as of this year. So I straight out of high school, my mom couldn't afford to keep me in college. So I don't have a college degree. It's really just out of just hard work and merit and dedication to this industry. But specifically as a Black woman, what challenges, as someone who does not have a degree, or I don't know, maybe you went back to school, but as a Black woman and compared to even women of color who are not Black, what type of advice would you give to that woman who shows up and she puts in the work, but still has to face the disparities of pay and appreciation and feeling valued? What would you say to the Black woman that has been in this industry and, like I said, shows up every day and still yet just not invited to the table despite her efforts? What kind of encouragement would you give to her?
I feel like I want to give you a hug because I can hear the the pain in your words, and I can feel. You just got to keep showing up for yourself, right? The beautiful thing about having a community of women is that you no longer have to wait outside the door, right? You no longer have to wait for someone to accept you, and it's okay to leave, right? You have to be able to leave places to find better places. It's almost like a bad relationship sometimes, right? We hold on to things for way too long. I've stayed with companies for way too long, hoping that one day they would see me, hoping that one day they would promote me, hoping that one day they would say that you're worth it. And it wasn't until that I could say that I'm worth it enough to leave, right? That you don't have to see my value. You don't have to pay me more. You don't have to give me the promotion. You don't have to send me to school. I will send myself to school. I took out a small loan one time to go to a finance school online because they wouldn't send me to finance school. And I paid $200 a month because I couldn't pay the $2,500. And I struggled to pay that because I said, I will find the education myself. As soon as you stop letting people wait for their permission to let you be great, I don't need a high school education. I got my GED. You know what I mean? I had a kid at a young age, and I said that those things will be my stepping stones. They will not be my deterrents, and that I will self-educate because the internet has so much power and information. There's so many scholarships and opportunities for you, and that when you self-educate and you put yourself in a position to say that the confidence that you get from the education that you build on yourself is way better than anything they could ever give you. And that right there is the foundation for a financial currency and confidence. And your confidence currency is worth way more than anything you can get out of any book, sweetheart, and anything that you can get from someone giving you permission to say that you're good enough, because you already are. And the moment you believe you're good enough and you walk in that, they don't know what to do with you. I promise you. They're like, I don't know who she is, but she's worth something. So you've got to tell yourself right now that you're worth something. Even before you're worth it, even before you feel it, you've got to just believe in yourself that I am already where I want to be.
You belong here and you deserve to be here. That's what I tell myself all the time. I belong here and I deserve to be here.
And it has nothing to do with that piece of paper. I mean, really, like the success has nothing to do with that piece of paper, especially in this day and age. Like to your point about YouTube and all the things that we can educate ourselves on. I didn't become a marketing leader until I was a vice president. It wasn't because I just went and learned it the entire time. You know, sometimes you're put in these positions and you have transferable skills, and it doesn't matter what your actual education is. What I would say is network. And I think that's the thing to me that we often are uncomfortable with. I used to have this game when I'd go to a conference, I would sit at a table with people I don't know. Because it's so easy to see your girlfriends and be like, what's up, Mabel? I'm gonna go sit with you because that's who I'm comfortable with. And then you don't meet anybody else. But if I sit over at that table, now there's someone at that table that I'm gonna meet, and they won't care about your degree if you know someone from JM&A over there. If I know Liza, she doesn't care. I can name the people in the room that if I have a connection, my resume doesn't matter, and I haven't applied for a job in a long time because of the network. I haven't applied in a long time. So to me, over this next couple days, your mission should be to meet as many people as possible, and not from a transactional standpoint, but from a pure really getting to know them and offering them value too. What can I do for you? I work, right?
Yeah, well, and add on that, it's your experience more than the education comes from the experience, right? So when I was a sales manager wanting to get in the box and I couldn't, I would go sit with the finance manager and say, show me how to submit a deal. I wasn't getting paid to do it, but it didn't matter to me. That was like my college, right? I did my college by learning experiences from the people above me who had the job that I wanted. And even though I wasn't gonna get paid to do that job until I got the job, by the time someone interviewed me, I'm like, yes, I know how to submit deals, I can work in Route 1, I know how to do this, so that my abilities were with confidence versus applying for something that I didn't know how to do, that I was gonna start at the bottom ladder. I ended up coming in with the experience ahead of time by making sure that I learned the jobs that I wanted way before I had them.
Yeah. Do the job before you get the job. That's really excellent advice. Yep.
This was amazing.
Julia, we're not gonna let you go. I'm gonna be on you this whole couple of days.
Paul and Kyle are going to kill us because we're over on time.
I cried. I knew I did not want to cry. And you got me, Erica.
Yeah, it never fails. Bring your tissue if you're coming to a WOCAN event because we are going to cry. Paul and Kyle are going to kill me because we're a little over time, but this was really powerful. And I know we wanted to get to table discussions, but we had some really great questions. And so we're going to start to wrap it up. I'm going to kind of let Carrie help wrap us up, but let's give them a round of applause.
Thank you, everyone. I want to show the one slide with the QR code because I want to encourage you. Does it have a QR code? Keep going. We're skipping discussion questions. There it is, a QR code. That's our website where you can join as a member, as an ally member. Either way, you're a part of our email distribution. We would love for you to come and hear, as I mentioned, Diana Lee has spoke as a speaker series. And these are inspirational women. It doesn't matter whether you're a woman of color or not. They're all inspirational. We encourage you to join us. And even these table discussions that we were going to have, we have member meetups where we have private groups virtually and we have some of those discussions. So I think we'll plan for one. So that we can have some of the table discussions that we planned on having.
We're planning to do one in June, so
Yes.
Stay tuned.
It's like catching up with your girl.
Exactly. Here, use this one.
It's like catching up with your girls. It's super fun. It's a lot like stress relief after work, right? And it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, so join us. Thank you so much for being here. Did you all enjoy this breakfast? Good. Thank you. Please join. We want to continue and keep in contact with you, and we so appreciate you for being here. We're going to come up and take a picture.
Yes.
So if you don't mind, everyone jump up on this stage. The stairs are over here, and we'll move that back. You guys want to?
Let's show them the women showed up at ASOTUCON and get a group photo together.
Yeah. You can come on this first row too. Do we have the photographer? Is he here? Oh, there he is. Oh, the video guy's there. Some of you can come up on stage. Yes, get in the front this time. Sorry, I didn't mean to call you out, Liza. Now you're going to have everybody trying to connect with you.
That's what we're here for. I love that.
Wait, do we have a... Okay, good, we have a photographer. Okay, we're going to smile on the first one, and then we're going to say, "We are WOCAN" later. So let's do... Do you need us to move over in...
Maybe another row.
Another row? Do you want another row? Okay. Oh, thank you, Katie, for your sacrifice. All right. Okay. Felicia, I just saw you. Hi, Felicia. I didn't see you there. Okay, are we in, Allie? Okay. Wait. Are we one more? Okay, professional. Yeah. Yeah, I wanted to videotape We Are WOCAN. Can we get that? Okay, so we're going to say, and you kind of have to emphasize the we. So we are WOCAN. Got that? All right, 1, 2, 3.
We are WOCAN.
One more for safety or no? Yeah. Okay. I'm so controlling. Okay. So I'm not apologizing though, although I do feel kind of bad. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3.
We are WOCAN.
All right, and Allie does all of our marketing, by the way.
Allie, we love you. Thank you all. We'll see you at the next WOCAN event. Thank you, everybody.